What's up, y'all? It's Dr. Paul with a conservation video for Liberty Hill Comics, where I share my passion and over 40 years experience comic book collecting, investing, and conservation with you. Today we are continuing our video series in which we clean and press this Silver Age key comic book and prepare it for submission to CGC. This comic book had been previously dry cleaned by someone and not very well, as they left obvious eraser marks that damaged the gloss on the back cover, as you can see in this image. We're going to show you the final steps to restore the gloss on the back cover and do all of our side-by-side comparisons of the before and after pictures on this comic book before we send it off for grading, so if that sounds like fun, stick around. In case you missed it, in episode 1 we talked about showcase number 60, the first appearance of the Spectre in the Silver Age after a full 20 years absence from comic book publications. We talked about the historical significance of the Spectre, his prominence in the early Golden Age, his founding member status of the JSA, and the big bucks that his early cover appearances demand in the market. We also discussed the CGC census on this comic book and the fair market value before completing a walkthrough assessment of the condition of this comic book and developing our game plan. This comic book presents really well for a nearly 60-year-old comic, but had some notable flaws, including rusty staples, rust migration into the paper, a minor spine split, a few color-breaking spine ticks, as well as some minor color-breaking creasing, and some general soiling. We also noticed that this comic book had been dry cleaned before, and not very carefully. A previous cleaner had left eraser marks on the cover of the comic book that disrupted the gloss. We set as one of our goals to address the gloss loss on the cover. In episode 2, I dry cleaned the front cover of the comic book, cleaning up especially the white areas on the Spectre's body and the title in the trade dress using cotton rounds and a few different erasers of different diameters to suit the areas we cleaned. We successfully removed some foreign substance from the cover and nearly 60 years of dirt buildup. Satisfied with the results, it was time to move on to the back cover. In episode 3, we dry cleaned the back cover where the bulk of the accumulated dirt, grime, and damage from the previously performed amateur dry cleaning resided. I also discussed the fact that conservators have found that clean and dry bare hands are generally safer than gloved hands for handling precious documents and old books, and the Library of Congress and conservation societies around the world recommend clean and dry hands over gloved hands for most conservation activities, which is why I do not use gloves for most comic book conservation work. In episode 4, I demonstrated how to use document cleaning powder or a document cleaning pad to dry clean comic books and prepare them for a final buff to restore the nice glossy look and vibrant colors indicative of a new comic book. If you're using the pad, it's not designed to be used as a giant cloth eraser. The correct way to use the pad is to dispense the eraser crumbs from the pad and then work them around the paper with your fingers before brushing them away. Rubbing the document cleaning pad over the comic book only smears dirt around the surface of the comic book cover. I've created a playlist for this series, and if you've missed any of the previous episodes and want to watch them before watching today's episode, follow the link to the playlist. Now that I've thoroughly dry cleaned the cover of this comic book, starting with cotton rounds and then working through various erasers and finishing with the document cleaning pad, it's time to give the cover a final clean and burnish. I'm using a clean, fresh cotton round, and I'm using mostly circular motion, so it's okay to use back and forth and along the edges and other places where you don't want to use a circular motion because you're concerned about catching the paper and causing some damage to it. And what I'm doing is just giving the cover, notice I'm not picking up any dirt at this point, just giving the cover a nice sheen with this action. Cotton by itself is slightly abrasive, just enough to sort of polish the cover and bring out the shine, knock off the very top, really very micron thin layer of oxidation, and bring the brilliance of the book back. Now you don't want to do this early in the process when you have a lot of filth on the cover. You have debris that could be abrasive. You could actually put larger scratches in the cover. We're putting essentially micro abrasion into the cover. And that's why this process works, in the same way that you polish a car. Clear coat on the car can get debris and other things caught in it. It can become oxidized, and you want to knock the top layer off to make the brilliant shine come through. Notice I'm spending a little bit of extra time on that edge where a previous dry cleaner had left some very obvious eraser marks. Again, I'm using mostly circular motions, but as I approach the edge, I want to go back and forth, or I want to go off from the paper, off the paper, and then replace back on the paper. Obviously, I don't want to come back across the edge and again risk tear, rip, bend. Again, I'm spending a little bit of extra time in those areas where a previous dry cleaner, and I'm checking them with incident light. And I'm satisfied with the results here, that we've, to the best of our ability, removed those eraser marks from the previous cleaner. Now, some of the gloss here is completely gone and can't be brought back, but I'm using little circles here to bring back as much of that gloss as we can. And again, the work that we did before with the dry cleaning, with the initial cotton rounds, then the erasers, then the document cleaning pad, have set us up here for success with this final buff. And once I'm satisfied with these results, I'm going to put this into my standard press, 15 minutes, right around 160 degrees. A magazine backer board with cutouts for the staples in the center, sheet of paper, cardstock underneath each of the covers, and then a stack of 2 magazine backer boards and a 100-pound cardstock, top and bottom. And that's it. I'm going to do that off screen because you've seen it many times, and we're just going to look at the final results. Here's the side-by-side for the front cover, and I'm really pleased with the result. Although we started off with a very nice looking comic book from friend of the channel Starman, there was still plenty of surface contaminants, as is evident in the trade dress and in the white areas of the Spectre's costume. We dry cleaned those up, removed the rest of the grime from the surface, and I think you can see that the colors are just a bit more intense and less dull in the after. And this is because of that treatment we did with the document cleaning pad and then the buff that we gave the comic book after. Very pleased with the results. Not a lot in the way of pressable defects on the front cover, but the dry cleaning resulted in a subtle but marked improvement in the cover. The back cover shows an even more dramatic improvement in terms of the dry cleaning, owing to the larger white and light colored spaces. We were able to remove a lot of contaminants that had built up on this cover over the last 60 years and that were left behind by the previous cleaner. We were also able to address the eraser marks that the previous cleaner had left and address some pressable defects, which I'll show with some incident light in a moment. I'm really pleased with the improvement in the back of the book, and I think the eye appeal is definitely enhanced by the dry cleaning that we did. I always use incident light to show pressable defects, while the flat light will show you your contaminants well for dry cleaning. Pressable defects are best seen in this incident light, and as you can see from the before and after, we didn't have a lot of pressable defects on the front cover, but our after image shows a nice flat book. In contrast, on the back, we did have quite a few pressable defects. In fact, I think some of these wrinkles were actually caused by the previous cleaner. You can see also the gloss restoration on the image on the right, obviously the after image. Look how much more uniform and natural the gloss looks on the back cover after our treatment. Most importantly, for many of you, we had these eraser marks that I teased in the very first episode we were going to try to remove. This is the before image, and I'll show you the after image, and you can tell me how you think we did. We've removed the direct evidence of those eraser marks, and we're no longer at risk of getting a poor cleaning designation from CGC that would actually be counted as a defect against us. So I'm very pleased with the outcome from the mitigation of these eraser marks that we teased in the very first episode of this series. I'm super pleased with how this project turned out. This was a nice book to start, so the improvements we made are a bit subtle, but small improvements in grade for a Silver Age key like this can create a lot of equity in both eye appeal and the pocketbook. This comic is off to CGC now, so when we get it back, we'll have one more final upload with the grading results. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the video series and will join me for future episodes. If you did enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment, and of course subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you made it this far, then you're a true fan of this sort of content, and I want to call your attention to the 2024 YouTube Comic Book Community Awards. Creating content for YouTube is a labor of love and a way for us to connect with others that share our passion. The awards recognize the incredible amount of work that goes into creating content for YouTube and bringing it to you viewers. I'm humbled and filled with gratitude to have been recognized this year as a finalist, and I'm thrilled to be listed among these other fine channels. Please take a minute and go vote for one of us. Everyone here is doing it for the love of the community. I've put a link in the description to make it easy for you to cast your vote. And if you want more comic book conservation content, check out the live show which airs Sunday evenings at 8:35 Eastern with my co-hosts Captain Larry of Flying L Comics and Phil of Phantom Restoration. Until next time, take care of one another.